Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video. Who'd have thought in 1994 that we would get a live-action film of a Hanna-Barbera cartoon? Like, I'm pretty sure, because anybody in 1994, around the early 1990s, from 93 to 94, because, well, around 93, that's when it was announced, and when the teaser came out, yeah, who'd have thought, and no one saw this coming, that we would get a live-action version, and I'm pretty sure, yeah, this was one of the first ever live-action films to be something off of Hanna-Barbera. That's right, guys. From 1994, and seeing as how it's celebrating its anniversary, the live-action film of Hanna-Barbera's The Flintstones. Yes, finally, at long last, and I've been looking forward to doing this, yeah, covering and reviewing the live-action Flintstones film. And I'm not doing this alone, because joining me reviewing the Flintstones is a new, very special guest who, he, like me, also happens to enjoy the Flintstones movie and appreciate it, and I appreciate it as well. I'm sure some of you would appreciate it too, but yeah, obviously there are those that, don't like it and such, and besides, when it came out, it wasn't really that well received. However, it did succeed financially. So, yeah. Okay, so joining me, reviewing the live-action Flintstones movie, is Tiki from the YouTube channel So You Want to Be an Imagineer. Welcome, Tiki.
No, Mummy, I don't want to go to school today. All the other boys make fun of me.
Heck of a wait for that being your introduction, so, but yeah, so yep, Tiki is joining me reviewing the Flintstones, and like I said, he too really appreciates the Flintstones, as do I, and yep, so hence, because I've got him with me, reviewing this, and again, I've been looking forward to doing this, because I knew that I obviously had to have someone with me, join in reviewing the Flintstones, and Tiki was a perfect choice. But yeah, so the first things we have to say about the Flintstones, I'll start with me. Well, obviously, before seeing and watching the movie, because I used to have a DVD copy of the Flintstones until what you just saw. I showed you guys my Blu-ray copy. I got that a while back, and obviously since I knew around the time I was wanting to review this and such, and I had to give it a rewatch. So obviously I watched the cartoon. And I remember watching it during the good old days of Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Boomerang householding all Hanna-Barbera materials. The good old Hanna-Barbera materials, from Yogi Bear, Huckleberry Hound, the Flintstones, the Jetsons, and so on. So I had seen the cartoon first. I knew the theme song very well. And, honestly, I can't remember, my exact introduction to when I first saw and knew that a live-action Flintstones movie exist. Probably most likely because I just remember seeing DVD copies of it, I think at one of my local Targets, and eventually did get a DVD copy, and, as of now, I have my Blu-ray copy, and yeah. And the first time I watched the Flintstones movie, well, I actually thought it was pretty good, and I still feel the same way, because now that I've seen it again, giving it a rewatch before, with this review, nothing's changed. Nothing's changed for me, because I understand it's not the best Hanna-Barbera film material, along with plenty of others. There's plenty of other Hanna-Barbera films that did not do so good, with more live-action Hanna-Barbera films, there's Yogi Bear, there's the Smurfs, and of course we would get another Flintstones movie. Yeah, we definitely know how that turned out. Prequel, that is. And on the animation side, animated Hanna-Barbera movies, yeah, most of them didn't do that good too, like a couple of Scooby-Doo, Tom and Jerry, Top Cat, Jetsons the movie, and yeah. But overall, I think as of now, for the Flintstones movie, I think it's gotten more appreciation as of now, and it's grown a cult following. And again, me, Tiki, we're one of those that come to like it, and again, I'm sure some of you probably come to like the Flintstones live-action movie, but yeah. Okay, now we'll come to you, Tiki. What are the first things you have to say about the Flintstones live-action film?
So yeah, honestly, man, I've only gained more appreciation for this movie over time. I really think it's one of the best like live action cartoon adaptation. Which, granted, that's not a very prestigious field, but I think everything from obviously the production design is just like, I genuinely think this movie has some of the most impressive production design in film history. I mean, I'm not even like, just the level of detail in it is just insane.
Yeah.
Casting is just like so on point, top to bottom. And one of the big things that people criticize this movie for, even people like back in the day, people like Siskel and Ebert specifically cited like this movie had too many adult themes in the plot. But I actually have grown to really appreciate that, because I really think that all the kind of like real world, like adult stressful stuff that's in this movie, it does speak to kind of like the roots of the show and it being like a honeymooners parody essentially. And I feel like even though this movie is certainly like appropriate for kids and was made as a family film,
Oh yeah.
I think it appeals to adults a lot more than something like Viva Rock Vegas, which is obviously meant to be more of just by and large a kids movie. So yeah, I really, really like this, man, and on a rewatch, I just kind of grew even more of an appreciation for it.
Uh-huh. And, who says that animation cannot have adult stuff and such and be serious? Who says that animation stuff cannot? There have been plenty, like Shrek, for example.
Yeah.
And, even like I think the Flintstones cartoon, other like, aside from the Flintstones show itself, maybe other pieces of Flintstones materials did have some serious adult stuff. Like, this pops in my head. Like, take for example, when Bam Bam and Pebbles grew up, they got married and they had kids of their own. Do you think that counts? Do you think that counts?
Yeah, I would say that. I would definitely say. I mean, like I said, I think the whole original series was like. I mean, that series was like The Simpsons of its day, where it was essentially a domestic comedy. So I think all throughout that series, there's adult subjects that they tackle.
Yeah, and here's the thing, because as I said, I knew about the Flintstones before the movie, watching a handful of the cartoon. Same for you, Tiki?
Yeah, so I actually saw, I was actually really familiar with the Flintstones because I'm old enough to remember when Cartoon Network, the days before the cartoons, essentially Cartoon Network back in like the early 90s was just what Boomerang evolved into. It was just like Scooby-Doo, Flintstones, Jetsons. Those were like the main three things on that channel. And so yeah, I very much grew up with Flintstones through that lens.
Right. Okay. And I'm sure you wouldn't be the only one that would remember that, the old days of Boomerang and such, but yeah. All right, so with that being said, as always, for me, read the description / the story. Big-hearted, dim-witted factory worker Fred Flintstone lends money to his friend Barney Rubble so that he can adopt a baby. As thanks, Barney swaps his IQ test for Fred's during an executive search program. After getting promoted, however, Fred becomes embroiled in the dastardly scheming of his boss Cliff Vandercave, who enlists his secretary, Sharon Stone, to seduce Fred, angering Fred's wife, Wilma. Okay, so the film itself, and also a little bit of background, because, well, like, plans for, like, doing a live-action Flintstones movie began in the early 1980s, around, like, 85, and Richard Donner was at one point considered to direct this, and then further on, in, like, the late 80s / early 90s, enter god of filmmaking, Steven Spielberg, when he would get the rights to doing a Flintstones movie, and when it came to the movie Always, while working on Always, well, and John Goodman, because, well, John Goodman had worked with Spielberg before they did the Flintstones. They did Always, and they did Frank Marshall's Arachnophobia. But in Always, and you know this story too, Tiki, during a table read, a table read for Always, Spielberg basically made an announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, I'd just like to point out, this man right here will be our Fred Flintstone. We'll be playing live-action Fred Flintstone. You know, obviously pointing to John Goodman. So, and like it's like John Goodman got trapped in that from the very moment. And what's he gonna do? Yabba dabba don't? Well, no, because eventually, of course, he would play Fred Flintstone. And here's the thing. I know I mentioned this to you, Tiki, like maybe on and off camera before doing this. If John Goodman had not agreed and signed up to play Fred Flintstone, we wouldn't have gotten the live-action Flintstones movie at all.
I mean, certainly not from Spielberg. I don't necessarily know if it was like, you know, with Hollywood, never say never, but yeah, certainly not the version that we got.
Yeah. I don't know, because, I mean, at that time and what was going on and, like, the attempts to do a Flintstones movie, like, it became possible because of John Goodman, and that's what I recall hearing. And by the way...
What I'm saying is that like, the state of Hollywood today, everything that's a recognizable IP is getting a movie, so I think a Flintstones movie would have eventually happened. It's just, like, we certainly wouldn't have got one as high quality without Goodman.
Exactly, and, you know, John Goodman, he has the heart of playing Fred Flintstone. Does that sound right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
And by the way, speaking more of John Goodman, another mentioning of this before getting into the movie, because, and I also told you about this, Tiki, because I learned about this thanks to Doug Walker, aka the Nostalgia Critic. In a video, just as himself, he was talking about, you know, when trailers used to be magical and exciting, when seeing them in the movie theaters, and obviously, you know, he's talking about his experiences seeing trailers and him with an audience just being so excited for what was happening and such. And one of them being the Flintstones, because Doug, like everybody else in '93, when going to see Jurassic Park, before Jurassic Park began, there was a teaser that rolled for one of Universal's next upcoming projects, you know, the following year in '94, which being the Flintstones. And everybody assumed, and according to Doug, everybody assumed, and no doubt about it, that, you know, people thought that, well, a Flintstones movie? Well, this will probably most likely be animated and such, and at that time, people knew about Jetsons the movie, so they assumed it was going to be the same for the Flintstones, and there was a sing-along of the Flintstones theme, and with a bouncing rock ball, and at one point, you see someone catching the rock, and it's John Goodman, and he goes, yabba dabba doo, and according to Doug, the audience erupted with laughter and confusion. Yeah, and just like what? Like, you know, oh, we're gonna see like you know, bedrock being built, and like we're gonna see puppet dinosaurs, and you know, obviously they knew what to expect in Jurassic Park, but boy, they did not expect how amazing they would look in CG. And sure enough, because when the Flintstones movie did arrive in '94, well, again, we all know how it turned out, sadly, but again, it was a financial success, but critics, they bashed it and such. And a quick mentioning of Ebert and Siskel, because I could have sworn, and if you know this too, Tiki, like, I could have sworn, because I have seen it, because most of Ebert and Siskel, their reviews on movies, they're out there on YouTube, and, of course, one of them being the Flintstones. I could have sworn, if I'm right, they did praise the set designs.
Oh, I'm sure they did. I mean, even, like, the set design is pretty much just, like, something that, like, you'd have to literally just be blind to not praise the set design in this movie.
Absolutely. You know? It's like they practically nailed bringing bedrock to life. It's amazing. Okay, yeah. But going into the movie itself, because, well, yeah, because this is Flintstones, and, like, you know, from Steven Spielrock and Universe Shell, and we get the introduction of, well, the main antagonist, and I think, yeah, it doesn't take you too long to realize that, yeah, he is the main antagonist. Cliff Vandercave, being played by Kyle, how's his last name pronounced? Help me out.
McLaughlin.
McLaughlin?
McLaughlin.
All right. You know me, viewers. I have trouble pronouncing. And same goes for Tiki. I'm not alone. So I've also explained some of my other friends have had trouble, even my dad. So anyways, and I did mention this to you too, Tiki, technically off camera, because Kyle, well, you told me that, I'll speak for you, because for Tiki, I'm sure you guys would probably know too, because Kyle would be best known as the antagonist, playing another villain / antagonist in the show Desperate Housewives, and how he would eventually become a series regular.
Yeah, he's antagonist in season 3, but then after season 3, he just kind of became part of the main cast.
Did his character, because I've never watched Desperate Housewives.
The thing with season 3, Desperate Housewives is like every season is like a mystery. So season 3, there was like this big mystery, like if he killed his ex-wife or not, and it turns out that he didn't. But because we know that if he did or not, he was the antagonist because there was that suspicion on him.
Right. Okay. But when he became a regular, like, he wasn't a bad man at all, his character?
No. He was basically, like, Brie Vandecamp's doofy husband.
Okay. And also, I mentioned, and I'm sure you guys would know Kyle for being in the original film version of Dune, directed by David Lynch. Yep. You know that too, Tiki.
I know he is in it. I have not watched that movie as much of a Dune fan as I am, because frankly, I'm kind of scared too.
Well, I mean, just give it a shot, that's all I could, why not?
I really should. It's just, the thing is, that is not the kind of book, like, Denis Villeneuve just made such a good call to split that book into 2 parts. Man, that is not the kind of book you could speed run through in one movie.
Besides, just to quickly mention, not to go off topic of The Simpsons, like, David Lynch, he's a fantastic director. Like, one of, like, his best well-known works, actually 2, Eraserhead and The Elephant Man. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also Kyle, coming back to Kyle, because I also know Kyle best, and you forgot about this, Tiki, that he is the voice of Riley's dad in Disney and Pixar's Inside Out.
I did totally forget about that, yeah.
Okay, so Cliff Vandercave, because, basically we find out, and talking to the secretary, Miss Stone, played by good old Halle Berry, because he's planning to do something devious and such, and, even talking to Miss Stone, right now I am visioning you dripping with coconut oil on a beach in Rockapole with Mr. Slate's fortune to keep us company, and somewhere down there is some dimwit who's going to make all my schemes come true, and then we cut straight to seeing Fred Flintstone being played by good old John Goodman, and of course the movie's rendition of the Flintstones theme, recreating it in live action, and, because the Flintstones family making their way to the cinema, and about that, because, like, I wouldn't think that they would be watching the Flintstones movie. Us audiences are watching the Flintstones movie. Apparently, it seems like they're watching Tar Wars.
That's what it says at the drive-in, but then, the screen does zoom in. Like the camera zooms in on the screen at the drive-in, and it is clearly the Flintstones movie. So I think that's a little bit of, like, wonky editing. It's not a big deal at all. I just think it's funny, if anything.
Yeah. So, and because seeing Bedrock, and by the way, because a pterodactyl is an airplane, that was pretty funny. And of course, getting the introduction of, again, John Goodman as Fred Flintstone and his pal Barney Rubble being played by good old Rick Moranis. And John Goodman and Rick Moranis, because, I'll talk more about the casting. John Goodman and Rick Moranis as Fred and Barney. Perfect casting.
I think Rick Moranis has the best performance in the movie. As much as I love John Goodman as Fred, and he is a perfect Fred,
yes,
Rick Moranis is just absolutely impeccable. Not to mention, I feel like Rick Moranis has all of the most dramatic beats to play in the story as well. Like, he's the character that you genuinely feel the most sorry for as the story goes on.
Yeah. And by the way, because... yeah, I think that goes for both John and Barney. Like, especially, John, I'm sure, like, they got the voices down of Fred and Barney, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Impeccably, yes.
Yeah. So they, driving their way back home from work, and, well, because we find out that Barney, he's about to be a dad and become a father, because he and Betty are going to be adopting a baby, thanks to Fred, because Fred lended Barney some money, and basically we kind of get the origin story on how Bam Bam came into the Rubbles, and also the Flintstones world, basically. That's nice to see. Fun fact about Barney, just very quickly, because with the fun facts I'd like to talk about, because, and I did tell you this, Tiki, because Steven Spielberg, Rick Moranis was not the first choice for Barney. It was Danny DeVito.
Which would have been a really different movie.
It would have been. So again,
just has such a different energy to him.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know, because by doing a Danny DeVito impression, like I don't know, just I'm just so excited, Fred. I'm gonna be a father. Someone.
Danny DeVito's voice is more Fred-like. You know what I mean?
Now imagine if he was cast as Fred.
That I could actually see.
Yeah, but I don't know. The problem is because Danny DeVito being short, and, well, he was about the perfect height and such for Barney, so...
Right,
But that's the thing. Again, Spielberg's first choice for Barney was DeVito, but DeVito felt that his performance for Barney would be grudgy or something. I need to go back and read that, but... So he turned it down. However, it's thanks to DeVito, he did recommend Rick Moranis, and thus, Rick Moranis was cast as Barney. So, good on DeVito's part. Yep, and so, by the way, because, I'll mention him in just a moment, because, Barney thanking Fred, and, because, Fred, going on talking, Barney gets the suspicion such that, you're afraid to tell Wilma, aren't you? And then Fred going on saying, afraid? Now let's get one thing straight here, Rubble. I don't need permission from my wife to make a decision for me. In my cave, I reign supreme. Supreme! I won't tell her, Fred. Thanks, pal. And, yeah. Okay.
I just feel like that's just a perfect, it, sets the tempo for the Fred and Barney dynamic so well. It feels like it's straight out of the cartoon.
Yes, and already, because, the dialogue between Rick Moranis and Fred and John Goodman as Fred and Barney, because we can already tell, because, they're good at it, and the chemistry between the two of them, so...
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, so them arriving back home, and by the way, again, I wish I could remember this one famous location where it's almost every movie and TV show, most notably Power Rangers and Star Trek, were filmed at. I'll put a text so you guys know, but I'm sure you know what it is, because that location was used for the location of, well, the neighborhood of where Barney and Fred live. Basically, the Flintstones and the Rubbles. Also, because, the introduction of all the other Flintstone family members. Wilma being played by Elizabeth Perkins. There's a practical/CG Dino being voiced by Mel Blanc. He got credited. That's nice to see. It seems fitting for someone like Mel Blanc. And also, Pebbles. And I'll go ahead and mention both Pebbles and Bam Bam, because Pebbles and Bam Bam, they're played by twin siblings. Pebbles was played by the Silver twins, and Bam Bam was played by the Sigurdsson twins, but yeah, so... and by the way, because the voice of Bam Bam, because I thought at first that maybe Bam Bam...
I totally thought it was E.G. Daily at first. I was convinced it was E.G. Daily.
Well, no, because the voice of Bam Bam was, okay, there she is, yeah. Bam Bam was voiced by Elizabeth Daily. So, yeah.
Did you say Elizabeth Daily?
I did say Elizabeth Daily.
Is that not E.G. Daily?
I don't know.
Hold on, I'm gonna fact that. I'm gonna fact that.
Well, Elizabeth, in case you forgot, and I'll let you viewers know this, that Elizabeth Daily.
Okay, yeah, it is E.G. Daily. Yeah.
Okay, so she's best known for.
Knew it.
Okay. Okay, but she's best known for, say, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and also having a voice role in Rugrats. So yeah. So her being the voice of Bam Bam, and I don't know, she was pretty good at voicing Bam Bam, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, she doesn't really sound that much like the cartoon, but I definitely think she gives it her own energy. It's very Tommy Pickles like.
Ah, okay. So, yeah, Fred arriving back home, and, he's first greeted by Dino, and then, because Wilma, talking to Fred about their garbage disposal and about a mentioning of, their saving account and the money and such, and she starts to wonder, and then Fred changing the subject and going over to the garbage disposal and, say aw, and reaching inside the garbage disposal, which being a pig, reaching out of its mouth, and aha, there's your problem right there, which being like a long fork, and he's wiping his hands, and, all right, you, spit it out, because he got a hold of his watch. And then Wilma, just like, she's on to Fred, and he does finally admit it. He comes clean and tells her that, well, he gave the money, he gave the money to the Rubbles because without the money, they wouldn't be able to adopt a baby. And you think at first, and Fred is wondering if, well, Wilma's gonna let him have it, but no, because, well, obviously, the Rubbles being very important to Wilma as well, and Wilma telling Fred that what he had just done for the Rubbles is the most sweetest thing ever, and he even mentioned, I also bought a new bowling ball, so, but yeah, and I know, Tiki, I know you come to really like the garbage disposal in this movie.
Yes, I love the garbage disposal. I love the sound design on his voice. I love the practical puppet. Honestly, he's one of my favorite things in the whole movie.
Not just him, but what about the Dictabird? I mean, we'll get to the Dictabird,
We'll get to the Dictabird. He deserves his own segment.
Of course. And by the way, because I'm pretty sure you knew about this, and I didn't know about this, that I think the director of the Flintstones, Brian Levent, he was the voice of the garbage disposal.
Oh, I did not know that. That's cool.
Yeah. And by the way, let's mention about the practical and sometimes CG mammals and dinosaurs that are in this film. The CG on those creatures being done by ILM, and ILM, this is post Jurassic Park, but also during the time when they were also doing the visuals and such for another big time 1994 film, which being The Mask. And by that point, because they were the CG in live action films done by ILM were looking good. And you also have the practical dinosaurs and mammals done by the good old Jim Henson Company. Anything to say on that?
I mean, I think as far as ILM goes, I honestly think that their run of, 90s movies is, genuinely some of the best digital effects we've ever had. I don't think that the CGI that they crap out nowadays can compete at all. It's just the level of detail in it. It's when the technology is brand new, but it's just kind of crazy how well it holds up. And then as far as Jim Henson goes, I mean, it's I really think that having those practical puppets just makes just so much more lived in.
And by the way, because the Jim Henson Company was no stranger to doing anything like puppet dinosaurs and such, because, well, they had the dinosaur series.
Oh, of course.
Yep, so there's that. By the way, fun fact, I think I'm right. The saber-tooth cat, who doesn't really have that much in the movie, I don't think he even had that much in the cartoon itself, because his purpose was just for, say, the closing of the theme song. That's about it. But
that was literally his purpose, from what I remember about the cartoon.
So I'm right? I'm right on that?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
But I don't know, because it would have been nice maybe for a couple of times to give the Sabretooth a spotlight, just, I'm just saying, but...
I feel that.
Yeah, so from what I heard, if I'm correct, the Sabretooth cat was one of the first ever CG characters, even in live action, where ILM, because they did a pretty good job on it, and even though there's not that much with the Sabretooth, where he has, fur added to him, so... Yeah, so I'm pretty sure, the Sabretooth cat in the Flintstones live-action film is the very first to have digital fur and so on. So at the adoption sequence, and we also get our first introduction, or first appearance of Betty Rubble, being played by Rosie O'Donnell. And yeah, how do we feel? Because on both of them, Elizabeth Perkins and Rosie O'Donnell as Wilma and Betty. We'll start with you.
Yeah, I think out of the four leads, Elizabeth Perkins is probably the least memorable, but she still does a really good job. I think she embodies the character very well. Rosie O'Donnell as Betty Rubble, I think, was inspired casting.
Yeah.
Certainly doesn't have the body type for the character, but the voice and that giggle especially is just... She just has it down so well, and in spite of her not having the body type, she just embodies the character. You know, she lives in that character, and it's honestly, it's a very impressive performance for me, honestly.
Oh yeah, and by the way, because Rosie O'Donnell, she was also a fan of the Flintstones, and well, because she nails the laugh. So, and. Yeah, okay, and you know what, I'll go ahead and mention now, because since I mentioned Rosie O'Donnell being a fan of the Flintstones, let's mention Brian Levent.
Okay.
Yeah, because Brian Levent, well, he had been a long-time Flintstones fan, and, this was his opportunity to do this, and he did hear about this for quite a while, that a planned Flintstones movie was in the works, until eventually he managed to get in contact, and thanks to his agent, to reach out to Steven Spielberg and Kathleen Kennedy, and this was during Jurassic Park. He met with them, and yeah, obviously Spielberg knew he was the perfect choice. He was the guy for the job, because, he knew so much about the Flintstones, and it seems only fitting to hire someone to direct a film that's based off of something, and that director is a fan of that,
Yeah, totally.
And I didn't even realize, because, I knew because he was the director of Jingle All the Way, but I didn't really realize for quite a while that he was also the director of films of Beethoven and Snow Dogs. So, and not to mention, because he of course directed the prequel, and because he would direct other crappy sequels, like, best example, Christmas Story 2.
Oh man, that's a bad one.
That's Brian Levent. That's Brian Levent. So, but let's face it, Christmas Story Christmas is the superior, the sequel as of now.
You know what? I actually think out of the Christmas Story movies, that one might be my favorite, just because of how overexposed the original one is. I cannot watch the original one ever again because of how overexposed it is.
Okay, so again, the Christmas Story Christmas is your favorite?
Probably, yeah, honestly.
Okay. You know what? Maybe the same goes for me with you, Tiki. A Christmas Story Christmas, probably so. I could watch the original Christmas Story maybe rarely, and I say rarely, because I got sickened by it. I'm not in a mean way, I'm just saying, because I had seen it so many times, thanks to my mom, but,
I honestly kind of have the same thing with Raiders of the Lost Ark and Temple of Doom. I prefer Temple of Doom a lot more, just because Raiders of the Lost Ark has just been so overexposed in pop culture. But anyways, I digress.
Yeah. There's something else I wanted to... But, okay, if it pops up, I'll randomly mention it. But anyway, so the adoption sequence, they're about to adopt, their child. And it's funny, because they think at first, well, it's an orangutan, because... let me see, because, Miss Pirate being played by Cheryl Lee Ralph, basically bringing out a child, and they think, Barney and Betty think it's their child, but it's not. They think at first, but no, because this baby that she's holding is going to the Hendersons, which being live, practical orangutans. That was pretty cool that they got actual orangutans for this movie for a couple of shots.
Yeah, and I think it's a neat little wrinkle to the world building as well. Something that wasn't in the cartoon.
Which would have been nice, but yeah. So eventually, enter Bam Bam, and, because Miss Pirate giving them basics on what to expect with Bam Bam at first, and then, Barney, come here, I'm your dad. And then Wilma taking a flash picture, this triggers and sets off Bam Bam, and saying his famous quote, and then making a run for it, and then a montage of Betty and Barney, cleaning him up, and to borrow a quote from the Nostalgia Critics review of the Flintstones, cleaning him up and making him look like Jake Lloyd. Yeah.
It is very Jake Lloyd-esque now that you mention
the
it.
haircut, for example.
I've never made that connection before.
The haircut, for example.
It's very similar, yeah.
Jake Lloyd had that same kind of hairstyle, like haircut in The Phantom Menace, so...
You know what's sad is that I remember when I was a kid when The Phantom Menace came out, I wanted that haircut.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I've seen how your hair looks, and you can almost have that haircut. I'm just saying, but anyways, yeah, so... And by the way, Brian Levant, he would actually work with Jake Lloyd in Jingle All the Way, so...
Yep.
And this was just before Jake got involved in Star Wars, of course. But anyway, so eventually Bam Bam's settling down and, you know, bonding with his parents, and even when Betty was reading Bam Bam's Cinder Rock, I want to say, and Rockalella, I don't know, but a Cinderella story, basically. And then we come to an infamous part of the movie, I guess you could say, the bowling sequence.
Why is it infamous?
I don't know, it just popped in my head, like, what word am I supposed to go for? Just, like a special moment in the movie? Is that what I'm supposed to say?
Infamous is just, it kind of makes me think that there's, like, something wrong with it, but... No, the bowling scene is definitely a lot of fun. I think it's definitely...
My bad on using infamous. So...
No, it's
yeah, so... Anyway, so okay, we'll come to you. We'll start with you, Tiki. What do you have to say about the bowling sequence?
I mean, I don't have much to say. I just think it's, again, it's just very, very in the spirit of the cartoon. I love the Twinkle Toes thing. I love the set. I love the fact that the Bolo-Rama doesn't have a roof randomly. I love that little detail.
Yeah. And by the way, because at the bowling sequence, we do see live caveman there. You noticed?
Yeah.
With the foreheads and that hairstyle, just,
right.
And grunting. And also...
I love the world building that this movie kind of puts in there, is that I feel like there's kind of different levels of Neanderthal.
Yeah. Also, because fellow co-workers at Mr. Slate's, quarry and such, Hoagie and Joe Rockhead, being played by two late legendary character actors, Richard Mall and Erwin Keyes. I think I said that right, yeah. Anything to say on the two of them and their characters?
Not much in particular, but they do fill out the world very, very well. And again, it's like one of those things in this movie where, even the minor characters are performed very well and cast very well.
Uh-huh. And, yeah, and by the way, fun fact, I think, the Flintstones movie was my first introduction to both Richard Mall and Erwin Keyes. Yeah, and, well, Richard Mall, because he's best known for, say, Night Court, and being the voice of Two-Face in the Batman animated series.
Right, of course.
And he would work with Brian Levant a couple of other times, like most notably in Jingle All the Way. And Erwin Keyes, because he had done a lot of TV stuff, obviously, but one of, he's best... I know I've seen him from a couple of others, but, some of his top works are, say, The Jeffersons, The Warriors, and I feel like it's gonna drive me crazy because I know I've seen him not just in The Flintstones, but a couple of others. I want to say, in the early days or something of his acting, but so Richard Mall and they were good in this movie, but so the bowling sequence was pretty funny. And by the way, because I think John Goodman recapturing Fred Flintstone and how he bowls and so on, and that chant that they do, you don't have to join in if you don't want to, Tiki, but wagga wagga woo, wooga wooga wee, picky picky picky, hokey pokey pokey, ah woo, that chant. Well, obviously it's part of their bowling team, I want to say. So yeah. This speech that a poem basically that Barney gives to Fred, and and how long they've been childhood friends, and And wouldn't you think so? Because it's like Fred and Barney, they're almost like brothers.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so, and
Just the way that Moranis delivers this poem is just so freaking earnest.
and Fred being a crybaby over it,
Yeah.
even causing a big puddle. And then, you know, Barney, in the poem that he wrote, you know, because of what Fred did to him, and it was a big thing, you know, helping him, you know, adopt a baby, and telling Fred that, you know, he will pay him back someday. And after the bowling sequence, well, because Fred's sneaking back home, and, well, because he was prepared and giving Dino a treat to get him to be quiet, and then he slips, and then he is greeted, because when he regains consciousness after getting hit by the bowling ball, well, he's unexpectedly greeted by his mother-in-law, Pearl, Wilma's mother, being played by the late legendary Elizabeth Taylor. Now, what do we have to say on Pearl?
I honestly think Elizabeth Taylor, again, delivers one of the best performances in the movie. I remember when I was a kid, she was my parents' favorite role in this movie. I just think she strikes a nerve with people, right? It's so relatable having mother-in-laws like this, you know?
Yep, and, well, because like, she, in the movie where she was Cleopatra, like, you know, Elizabeth Taylor being this iconic star, and to find out and see that she was in the Flintstones. And I think, I hate to say this too, I think the Flintstones movie was also my introduction to Elizabeth Taylor.
Yeah, probably mine too.
That can happen sometimes with some movies like...
Honestly, I have to think about this. It might have been my introduction to John Goodman. I'm pretty sure it might have been, honestly.
No, my introduction to John Goodman was Monsters Incorporated.
Okay, yeah, but I'm a little older than you, so I was like 11 when that movie came out. So yeah.
And I was 9 months old when my parents.
Exactly.
Yeah, when my parents took me to, you know, to the movie theaters, and, well, one of the very first movies I saw in the theaters was Monsters Incorporated. So, and by the way, because to mention this, actually two things, because one of them I did tell you early on, Tiki, but the first one I'll mention is that it's hard to believe that John Goodman, he went from voicing a T-Rex and now plays a caveman.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. You know what? That was absolutely my first introduction to John Goodman, was We're Back. Absolutely, no question about it.
Yeah, and
that is a bit of childhood memory.
Yeah, and right after he did We're Back, he would do something else, dinosaur, that would have dinosaurs, the Flintstones. So, okay, and what I was going to say was, because I did mention this to you, Tiki, very early on before it came to us doing our review, because, you know, John Goodman, because he's also good in 10 Cloverfield Lane, and I have...
10 Cloverfield Lane might be his single best performance, in my opinion, honestly.
Yeah, but I've saved this joke for this, because of course it's for a joke, like, just, it'd be funny, just, like, in 10 Cloverfield Lane, because he can be threatening at times, especially to what's-in-face with that cask, you know, because, like, imagine this, like, you know, you pull something like that again, and I'll unleash the Dino.
Oh, God.
See? Like, now you get it.
Dino in that bomb shelter, that would have made it a better movie.
If anytime they misbehaved, out comes the Dino. Dino just being all over and rambunctious, just, you know, it'd be funny.
Dino was the Cloverfield monster the whole time.
Yeah, that'd be a twist. And how John Goodman is responsible for all this. But, not really. But, anyway, so, you know, Pearl just giving, you know, her son-in-law a hard time, and obviously this came from the cartoon, and, you know, it's funny, like, that's it! Wilma, where's my club? And, you know, and even telling Pearl that I'll be someone someday and such, and luckily enough, because, I guess, yeah, the next day at work, because, Mr. Cliff gives the announcement of the chance for anybody working in Mr. Slate's quarry, that they can become a vice executive and such. I mean, do you have anything to say on that?
Not not particularly, honestly.
Okay.
I think it's a good plot point as far as, like, being able to weed out who would be the best candidate.
Yeah, and, well, this was Fred's moment, because, and like he said to, not just Wilma, but especially to his mother-in-law, that, him being somebody, and this is his chance to be somebody. And even at one moment where Betty and Wilma, they obviously are aware of what's happening at the quarry, and them talking about their husbands and such, and, well, because now it comes down to writing down their IQs and such, and Fred, he is really struggling, but not for Barney, because apparently, he's smart, he got it all right, and he can see, of course, that Fred's really struggling, and when the time comes to put in their IQs and such, well, because Barney offering to take Fred's over, and he could see, we can tell by his reaction, it's bad, it's really bad, and that's when he remembers, because again, it was a big thing for Barney. Fred helping Barney, as well as Betty, adopting a baby. That was a huge thing. And it only made sense for Barney to repay Fred back. And because of what he said in the bowling sequence, yeah. So that was Barney's moment to do so. But little did Barney know, as well as Fred, I mean, obviously, both of them, and nobody else didn't see this coming, what Cliff had planned up his sleeves. And, well, because, Cliff and Miss Stone, they find out about this, and, for Cliff, it's impossible. How could Fred have done this? But, of course, they proceed announcing that Fred has become a vice executive, and Fred being happy about it. And also, something else that the Nostalgia Critic pointed out in his review of the Flintstones, like, Barney being the very smart one, like, maybe he's an ancestor to Einstein.
Huh. That's funny.
That's just that. I mean, it's more of a joke and from the Nostalgia Critic, so But I don't know. I mean, what do you think? Like, if it was Barney, do you think he would have made a good executive?
Honestly, I kind of think I think it's a little bit of a plot hole that, like, aren't they specifically looking for someone who's a dumbass who won't, like, who won't catch on to the fact that they're setting him up? Like, yeah. I would think that they would have wanted to go with the person who scored the... I don't know. That's one of the few things that I can kind of point to in this movie as a pretty major plot hole.
Yeah, but later on, because, the one that had the lowest score still gets fired. Like...
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, so... I wouldn't want to make it that confusing and not to really focus on those details, but anyway, so Fred becoming the vice executive, and then the next day, well, thus he begins his new position at Mr. Slate's company, the quarry and such, and now making it big time in that building and such, and, taking him to his office, and his new secretary, Miss Stone, and, Fred just, flirting with Miss Stone, even, like, his tie raising up, like, that's an adult joke right there.
Yeah, big time. Full respect for the Sharon Stone pun, by the way.
Yeah, and by the way, because it's actually fun fact, this is true, that Sharon Stone was considered to play Miss Stone, and for that pun, and Sharon Stone was interested. She was down to be a part of this, but unfortunately she was unable to, I guess, due to scheduling conflicts and such. Yeah, so eventually they got Halle Berry. And anything to say on Halle Berry as Miss Stone in this?
Yeah, as far as I know, this is one of her earlier roles, right?
Yeah, it was. This is, I
definitely think, once again, I feel like this entire cast, like, top to bottom, there is not a dud in the bunch, and I think she performs her role really well. I think she's a great kind of femme fatale, but I also really like her kind of, arc of turning on Cliff by the end of the movie. I think that's handled well. I think she does a really good job.
And if I'm correct, she regrets being a part of Cliff's evil schemes, And by the way, because as you mentioned, this is before Halle Berry went, big time in later films that, from, say, Monsters Ball, James Bond, and most notably the X-Men, and more of a joke, but still, Catwoman.
Catwoman is not a joke, sir. When I grow up, I want to be Catwoman.
Okay. Well,
Tiki... Just to cite that, I am actually, like, I don't think the review's up on YouTube anymore, but
the reason...
on my line
I mean,
from a review that I saw of Catwoman.
I mean,
just to give credit, I did, plagiarism issues on YouTube being what they are. Just want to put that asterisk out there.
Because the reason I said joke, I mean, because I don't know, because like
it's a big joke of a movie, but I love it for that.
It's so bad. It's so bad. It's
it
good.
Scratches my so bad it's good itch. It very much does so. It's a staple of my so bad it's good movie nights.
Right. Okay. So with that out of the way, because Fred, now big time and Mr. Slade and company, and we'll go ahead and bring him up now. The Dictabird.
Yeah, one of the big highlights, I think.
Absolutely. And being voiced by a Lucky Charm of the Flintstones, although he hadn't been in that many Flintstones materials, but still, he was a Lucky Charm of Flintstones. The voice of the Dictabird, the late legendary Harvey Korman.
Oh, yeah.
And Harvey Korman, because other Flintstone stuff that he had done, well, he would go on to be in the other live-action Flintstones movie, Viva Rock Vegas, the prequel, as Wilma's father, but he is best known being the original voice of the Great Gazoo.
Which, what's really funny about that is that, like, nowadays, it totally feels like this role nowadays would have absolutely gone to Alan Tudyk.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And it was I, your Dictabird, read my beak. And, yeah, I mean, Harvey Korman never disappoints in anything, even if he's in a movie that's suckish, because he's Harvey Korman. And
yeah, I really like the Dictabird, just as a plot point. I think it's really clever how, essentially a piece of office equipment becomes, the thing that the plot hinges on.
Yes, and can't forget
I think that's true to form with the Flintstones, world building with the whole appliances being animal stuff. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, also can't forget to mention Harvey Korman, best known for being part of the cast of The Carol Burnett Show, and also being a Lucky Charm of Mel Brooks movies. So,
of course.
Oh yeah. Can't forget his iconic role as the main villain in Blazing Saddles. Oh yeah. So yeah, and right.
Mel Brooks. I know that's not Harvey Korman, but
that's Slim Pickens.
Yes.
Yeah. So, where's this is Harvey Korman. Where's my froggy? So. Yeah.
Right.
So. Okay. So and right away, Fred and the Dictabird, because they just criticize one another and just giving each other a hard time. Then at one point, because later on, to speed things up, because finding out who got the lowest score, and Cliff turning to Fred, telling Fred that he has to fire Barney Rubble, and Fred, he is shocked by what he's hearing, and even if he refuses, then I think, Cliff will report this to Mr. Slate, and then Cliff will have Fred fired. So, Fred, he has no choice but to do so. And later that night, because they arrive back at, their home, and, well, there's a surprise party for Fred becoming, vice executive and so on. And to make things worse, and well, for Fred, because he has to give Barney the news that, well, he's fired and such. But surprisingly, Barney, he handles it well, because, Barney telling Fred that there's plenty of other stuff out in the world for him to do, so.
Honestly, I think that the scene where Fred has to tell him out in the backyard, that might be my favorite scene in the movie. I think it's so earnest, the performances come across you can feel the pain in Goodman's delivery. You can feel the Moranis is kind of naive sense of optimism and how it doesn't let him affect the friendship with Fred. Honestly, I feel in a lesser movie, this would be the point where the falling out happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's honestly one of the big things that I really respect about the plot of this movie is that it is not where the falling out happens.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And by the way, because at the party, out of nowhere, especially for Fred, because I gotta quickly mention this, Pearl now lighting up towards her, son-in-law, and an understandable response that Fred says, have we met before? So, like, this is Fred's first time where she's being nice and sweet to him, so... anyways, so, after that, because, well, what happens next is, and basically this is where, that's all we get of Bam Bam's beginnings, where at, like a antique shop, well, not antique, but, you know, a very delicate shop where there's glass and such, and also some dresses, and Wilma, you know, like, wearing something, I guess, to go along with Fred being a new executive, and that whole thing of, you know, da-da-da-da-da-da, charge it!
That might be my favorite reference to the original cartoon in the whole movie. I love that. It's played up so well.
So, I never knew about that. It was in the cartoon because I never watched.
Oh, yeah, that's a big thing in the cartoon.
I'm just saying because I had never seen an episode where it had that. Just saying. So, but did it also have the da 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 trumpet thing?
Yeah.
All right, just making sure because I think you'd have to. So, and so then Bam Bam, like he mistakens like some kind of like clothing and such, you know, fur-skinned, and then just causing, like, all hell breaks loose and just, like, smashing the glasses and such, and, I just can't help but think of that close-up shot of Betty just going, no!
Right.
Sometimes I, just, like, when thinking of the Flintstones movie, it's one of those that I think of, so, because at that moment, that makes things worse for the Rubbles. You know, especially since, before that, because something bad happens at, you know, Slate & Company's, and, like, a whole, like, big staff is there, like, the big top men of Slate & Company, and we, of course, have Mr. Slate being played by Dan Florek. Don't you think Dan Florek was a pretty good casting for Mr. Slate?
I think he's impeccable as Mr. Slate. He is, like, the embodiment of that cartoon character. And as you know, man, Dragon, my co-host on my channel, like, we have a big affection for Mr. Slate as a character. We think he's one of the best fictional bosses.
Okay, like in the Flintstones cartoon, all Flintstones?
Just anything Flintstones, like throughout Flintstones media. We just think he's such a nice, like, patient guy. I feel like he's a great kind of contrast to the Jetsons with Mr. Spacely, who's just a jerk.
I was about to say, like, the boss from the Jetsons, the total opposite.
Exactly, yeah.
But couldn't have there been any moment in the Jetsons where the boss was nice for once?
I'm sure there's look, I'll be honest with you, man. The Jetsons, I feel, is a very inferior show to the Flintstones. So I do not know the episodes nearly as well as I do with the Flintstones. But yeah, I'm sure there's moments.
I think we were to assume that maybe it did happen at some point in the Jetsons.
Yeah, I would assume.
But okay, so in that sequence where Mr. Slate is there and such, and there's like a staff meeting or whatever with big names and such in the company, because do you remember what goes on in this? Do you want to take it from here?
No, I'll let you do the summary, man. You're doing a good job of it.
Well, the best I can explain is that I guess they're going bankrupt, I want to say, and it seems like at one point, like, it seems like they might have to let go of some of their employees and such, layoffs and so on. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that's about right, yeah.
Okay. By the way, some of those, like, big-time, like, people in that meeting is William Hanna and Joseph Barbera make cameos in this, in case you did or did not know.
I did know that, but it's good of you to point it out.
Yeah. So there's that. Yeah, so they do make cameos. You know, here's another thing. I do wonder, because with so many Hanna-Barbera films, like movie adaptations of Hanna-Barbera's works, you really wonder how they felt on some of their creations being turned into movies, and most of them flopping.
I don't know. I definitely don't think Hanna-Barbera has the best track record with movies. I mean, I think this one is probably their most successful. Is that fair to say?
Financial, yes, it did. Because the Flintstones movie was a financial success. So, Yeah. So again, because they make cameos in the Flintstones movie, and well, they were executive producers for one thing. And then Fred Flintstone coming in, he was late, and then at one point, well, Cliff, he has a solution to make things better at the slating company. Basically, building like this contraption that can do all the work with giant boulders and so on. And even Fred is not sure about this either. That the possibility of hundreds of layoffs for his fellow coworkers, but also his friends. So, and back at the shop, because Bam Bam put into timeout, I assume, and like the cashier, like the guy at the front desk, telling Mrs. Rubble, there's something wrong with your credit card, and something like that. It's no damn good, and basically smashes it, and that just makes things worse for the Rubbles. And as I mentioned early on, that moment with what Bam Bam does, that's pretty much the last we get of Bam Bam's beginnings, of being a Rubble, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, one of the criticisms that Siskel and Ebert did bring up in their review is that the plot is a little unfocused, how it goes from, like, the adoption storyline into the stuff with Fred at the company and stuff, but I don't know, man. I feel like it's kind of like a natural sort of, with Bam Bam, it does give Bonnie the reason to do what he does. I think it's natural enough. Would I maybe like a little bit more screen time for Bam Bam in the second act? Yeah, I guess, but it doesn't really bother me.
Yeah. I mean, as long as stuff like this in movies, if they're done in the right way. So, yeah. I think with what you said, and same goes for me, I think the Flintstones movie did that okay. So, like, Pebbles, I keep saying Pebbles, I mean Wilma and Betty, because Betty and Wilma having a conversation, like, Betty is worried because, well, Barney, he's still out of a job, and with what the heck just happened at that shop, yeah, what's going to happen? And if the possibility, the risk, which thankfully, of course, it doesn't happen. Good thing we don't get this in the movie, that the risk that they might lose Bam Bam. And it's funny because...
I'm with you. I'm kind of glad that never really comes up as a plot point. I feel like that would have made the plot a little too messy.
And it would have been just too hard and too much seriousness going on, And by the way, because some of, like, the locations in Bedrock City, because, like, that playground, literally called Jurassic Park, and we also have Rock Donald's. Do you have anything to say on some of that? Because we have Rock Donald's, we have Jurassic Parks, so, like, references here and there and such, Well,
I know that McDonald's definitely got their money's worth out of that sponsorship, because didn't they shoot, like, a bunch of commercials and stuff there, too, at that set?
You are correct. And...
Yeah.
Because one of the obviously they did a few McDonald's commercials. One of them, they actually got Rosie O'Donnell as Betty for that. And it had to, because McDonald's had those, like, glass cups, I want to say. Because McDonald's, for quite a while, they used to do some pretty cool, like, cup themes, like, to any movies and such. Like, they did some of, like, Star Wars, The Muppets, and Star Trek, and Batman Forever, and the Flintstones being another one. So, I think my dad, like, he has some of he did get some of those Star Wars themed cups, of Return of the Jedi. So, and I think one of the Muppets as well. So, anyways, yeah. So then at one point. Anything to say on this one part where a pterodactyl comes in and basically takes a crap?
That might be my least favorite moment in the whole movie. I've got to be honest with you. It really doesn't feel like it even fits, and I'm not a fan of bathroom humor.
I highly doubt something like that happened in the animated show.
Right, exactly.
There's no way.
That's part of the extended world building I don't really appreciate. I don't want to think about the semantics of that.
Then it's hard to believe, but true. Some movies, they sometimes loved doing pee-pee and poo jokes. So,
I feel like we as a society have gotten away from that a little bit, but yeah, I remember back in the 90s and 2000s, the 2000s especially, it was pretty prevalent. Like, even more so than the 90s, from what I remember.
Thank God for that. So that came to an end. I think most notably, this is funny, it somehow works, Daddy Daycare.
Oh, man, oh, God, I've never actually watched that movie, but I imagine there's a lot of toilet humor in it.
I don't think you will be disappointed at Daddy Daycare, so... I surprisingly enjoyed it, so...
I do know that I remember the I Missed kid from Daddy Daycare.
There you go, and seeing Eddie Murphy's reaction, and that...
that kid, the kid who played him, he was in something, I forget exactly what.
I know what it is, Tiki. Tiki, I know what it is.
Oh.
The Ted series.
Yes! No, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he did a really good job in that.
Nice to see that he came back from doing some acting, after quite a while as a kid, and coming back and doing the Ted series. So, something else Universal related. So, anyways, Fred is like trying to come up with an idea to make a speech, an idea to Mr. Slate and such, and the Dick to Bird getting all this and so on. And another moment where Miss Stone coming in, flirting with Fred, but little does Fred know that, well, Miss Stone is giving her some documents or something like that, where basically, a stupid moment for Fred, because he wants to read it, but, he was gonna read it, but the more distracted he got by Miss Stone and such, he proceeded on doing those because, basically, writing those documents and such, which basically causes him to fire all those employees. So he was this close to doing it at first, and he was about to read them, but Miss Stone flirting with Fred, and then bad timing because Wilma popping up, and even the Dick to Bird,
Please don't make too much of an issue about this. Again, in a lesser movie, I could totally see this being a much bigger plot point than it actually is.
Yeah, that's true. So again, because Wilma coming in, and also the Dick to Bird, alerting Fred, wife and such, and it's like I don't. Wait, what was that now?
I was imitating Dick to Bird, like your wife.
And it's like Fred just for a moment forgot the existence of Wilma,
Right.
Not intentionally, but Besides, I'll go ahead and bring it up, because there is a moment, and it's very sweet of Fred, because, going on Miss Stone about how much he loves Wilma. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Now, that was a good moment, and, Fred, it shows, because how much...
I also feel like that was probably the first moment where Miss Stone, really started to get on his side. You know what I mean? Really started to sympathize with him. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So Wilma, informing Fred about the Rubble's troubles, because, Barney, he's still out of a job, and, because they no longer live in their home, and, because where are they going to move in? And judging by the smile from Wilma and Pebbles, because they now move in, and according to Wilma, Fred claims that this was his idea, so...
Speaking of Pebbles, can I just say Pebbles and Bam Bam having their little friendship, right from the get-go, is just freaking adorable, and I love how much Pebbles cares for Bam Bam in this movie.
It's from the beginning, at the adoption. Yeah. And don't you think, when later Flintstones materials came along, how, in their teenage and adulthoods, they became a romantic couple, and anything on that?
I mean, look, I'm one of those people where it's I'm kind of a champion of platonic male-female friendships when it comes to media. I think there should be a lot more of them than there are. I think we should just normalize platonic male-female friendships in general.
Yeah.
But I think for Pebbles and Bam Bam, I think it makes sense, honestly.
And here's another good example. The same thing would happen for Simba and Nala. So
now, Simba and Nala, it's really funny that you bring that up, because that, to me, is actually an example of, I don't vibe with that being a romantic relationship. I very much see them as childhood friends, and, I get the whole thing where he's gone for a number of years and whatever, but I don't know, man. The Simba and Nala thing has always bothered me a little bit more. I'm not gonna lie.
And also, just to quickly mention, like, who is Nala's father? So, you know.
Oh, right. That's a good question.
Exactly. Mufasa is the only male lion we see, aside from Simba, so...
Yeah, oh god.
But maybe that...
Yeah, I don't want to unpack that.
I would like to think that's most likely not the case, so... Yeah. Anyways, so, you know, by the way, because Lion King, a big-time successor in 94, coming out a month after the Flintstones, so...
and I mentioned this to you yesterday, but The Lion King is the first movie that I ever saw in a movie theater when I was like 3 years old, and I swear to God, that is like one of my highest like achievements in my life, is that being my first movie. I am so proud of that fact.
Yep, and I think
for the kids that are like, you know, like, hey, let's take little Timmy to see the Garfield movie is his first movie in movie theaters, you know, or something.
Yeah. And I think the same goes for me, just like you, like I guess, I mean, and if you would think so too, for me, Monsters Incorporated, as I brought that up early on.
That is a very good one. Yeah, that's a very good first movie. Yeah, sure.
Absolutely. And Monsters Incorporated being one of Pixar's gems, no doubt about it.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway,
Oh, yeah.
okay. So again, the Rubble's moving in with the Flintstones, and well, because you know Barney from time to time, like trying to find work and such, and then at one point, because Cliff basically gives Fred more money and to speed things up, because so now Fred's really going big time as an executive and becoming pretty much a millionaire, and with another montage, and we basically get the rock and roll version of the Flintstones theme by the BC-52, and
yes, that is such a gloriously 90s cameo.
what's the actual name of them? Because in the Flintstones, they're called the
B-52s.
The BC-52s.
No, the B-52s.
Oh, B. Oh, okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah, because in the movie they're referred to as the BC-52s.
Yeah.
So, yeah, 52s or 52 in Flintstones.
Mm-hmm.
Is it 52s or 52 in the Flintstones?
I think it's the B-52s.
Oh, okay, all right. So just making sure. So yeah, in the Flintstones movie, they're referred to as the BC-52. So they're singing, their rendition of the Flintstones in this montage, and how we would get it again in the credits, and also a music video of that. And by the way, that music video was pretty funny because you did have some of the cast members like John Goodman, Rick Moranis, Elizabeth Perkins, Rosie O'Donnell, and Kyle and Halle Berry in that. So yeah. So in that montage, because Fred going big time, getting a new car, him and Wilma going shopping, getting a new garbage disposal, and adding a second floor to their house, and, decorations, even the mammoth, that's their faucet, like, getting decorated and so on. And, and even at one point, like, we find out, and according to Cliff, they got rid of the saber-tooth cat.
Right.
They at least they spared Dino. So, yeah. So, and for poor Barney, because still having trouble finding work, like he's like a car wash person. Does that sound right?
I mean, he has a couple different jobs. I know he's like a server. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's a car wash person. And
also a real-life crash test dummy.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's definitely the best one from a comedic point of view.
And that just reminded me, in that one shot in the montage where Fred and Wilma, they go in for shopping, did you notice, Tiki, that in the corner, a couple of mannequins, real-life people as mannequins?
Can't say that I did notice that.
It's there. Apparently, I guess, like, a couple of people, like, are supposed to be mannequins, and they're put in makeup and to look like mannequins, apparently, so...
That's kind of bizarre. All right.
That's kind of I don't know, because it's kind of cruel for them. That
out, man.
What's that?
I said mannequins creep me out.
How are you on animatronics?
I love animatronics. I don't like mannequins.
Total difference. Okay, so
Yeah.
but again, that's kind of sad that live people in the Flintstones, they have to stand there all day as mannequins. So in the Flintstones world, basically how that's done. But anyways,
I see what you're saying. I see the joke now. Yeah, that is a funny joke, honestly.
you know what else is funny is that, well, most of the mammals and dinosaurs in the Flintstones, because they're used as appliances and objects and such. Even one bird, because at a lunch break, because one bird is popping open the bottles and such, and the bird, then the bird says, this job sucks. So.
Right.
Yep. So that's understandable. And
I think that line should have gone to an animal that was acting as a vacuum cleaner, but I digress.
Now that would have been fitting. So anyway, and at a certain point, Betty and Barney, because they feel as though that, well, they're friends, the Flintstones. It's like they've completely become different people and such to them. And
I really appreciate the subtle performance from Rosie O'Donnell, like especially at the scene at the rock concert where it's like she's still trying to have a good time with them. She's still trying to go along with it, but there's that subtle thing where she knows that this is like not great. Like, I don't know, I really appreciate subtle acting like that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And then at one point, because, back at the Slayton Company, because Fred was starting to pack up and letting Cliff know that he was about to, him and his wife, head to the cavern on the green. This, apparently, because, judging by Cliff's response on that, because Cavern on the Green is this very expensive, fancy restaurant, so... And that's where we get the appearance of the B-52s as the BC-52s. So,
right.
And Fred and Wilma doing a bit of a dance, and Betty is there because, her tagging along. And then at one point, because we see that Barney is there as a busboy, and this is a surprise for all three of them, Fred, Wilma, and Betty, and and Fred, like a stupid moment for Fred, like, you see Wilma, and you were worried that he wouldn't get a job and having to live with us forever. Just
Oh God.
I know. And then at one point, because when Barney, he notices and overhears this on the TV, on the news, that, well, basically Fred, because he did do those like rock papers and such, and those documents, which apparently what he did was because basically, I forgot to mention this, Fred wanted to have his fellow co-workers / his friends to have a long extended vacation, but what happened was, and of course he didn't know this, because again, he was tricked, manipulated, and so on by Cliff. He fired... I feel
like that is probably, like, out of all the stuff that Cliff does, that's probably the one that he should have caught, I don't think Cliff would be subtle about that one.
Again, because Fred was, like, one or two times this close to reading them, but he didn't.
Right, exactly.
Because he got distracted, So what he did was accidentally, because he didn't know this, he fired them. And Fred, Barney telling Fred this, but, like, Fred does not believe this, and neither does Wilma, I think, and Betty. Like, you calling my husband a liar, and, that busboy is your best friend, and so on, and even Barney finally comes clean and tells Fred, as well as Wilma and Betty, that, he switched those exams with Fred, and him getting the highest score and Barney getting the lowest score. And was there something you wanted to say?
I have a question for you about that scene.
Oh,
do you consider it a liar revealed moment?
That's a good question.
I honestly kind of feel like it's almost like a subversion of the liar revealed moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I don't. Now, I know, and I've seen plenty of films, especially some animated films where they've done liar reveal stories, but I don't really think in my opinion, and the best I can say is, I don't really think the Flintstones movie really fully does this liar reveal thing and such, because, I mean, I don't know, because it's hard for me to put it at words, but...
This is an interesting thing to ponder. It's just just throwing it out there.
Yeah, and that's the best I can say, so...
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I don't really fully see this being like a full-time liar reveal thing, just, you know.
I think if anything, it's kind of like an interesting riff on the liar reveal, where the liar who is being revealed is actually the one that's very much in the right.
Yeah. And I don't know, because in my opinion, it's not done that much and it doesn't last that long. Like, don't you think at that moment, I'm talking about Wilma, do you think at that moment, like, Wilma's kind of out of character or something, like, out, you know, if you get what I'm saying?
I honestly think this moment, that's honestly one of the reasons why I bring up the liar reveal thing, is that I do think it is a little forced that both Fred and Wilma would be this dismissive in this moment.
Yeah, like Wilma should be very smart at this, and I think and it doesn't. I don't think it lasts that long. And then when it comes to the sequence where, well, the Rubbles are packing up and they leave and such. And, you know, it's too late for an apology and stuff like that. And, you know, Wilma, she does become upset about this. And it's nice that there is one moment where Fred, he's just ignoring this and he's reading the paper. He does pull the paper down and he does have a sad look. He is of course sad that the Rubbles are leaving. So yeah. And then, you know, a heated moment, you know, because Fred, you know, going on like saying there's plenty of other people in the world that we can make friends with. Who needs the Rubbles? I do, says Wilma. And then just going on like, I don't need, but I'll tell you one thing I don't need. I don't need this necklace. I don't need this lamp. I don't need this television set. And Fred just, you know, saying, not the TV. And how would they, besides, how in the world would they get that TV to work? This is the Stone Age. Like, well, I guess they have their ways, so.
Acknowledge it.
I'll tell you this, I seem to remember, now I've seen a little bit of the Jetsons meet the Flintstones, and I remember one part where they turn on the radio, and on the other side of the window, outside of the window, it's a bird with binoculars, you know, checking what the weather will look like.
Right.
So that's apparently how the radio works, so... Anyway, so, by the way, the Nostalgia Critic, something else to mention from the Nostalgia Critic's review of the Flintstones, because he pointed out the lamp, because I guess to him, yeah, I kind of think so too, a little bit, because it's like the lamp, don't you think so too, that the lamp that they have almost looks like the leg lamp?
You know what, I'd have to go back and look at a picture of it, honestly.
And it's so funny because in the Nostalgia Critic's review, because you know the Nostalgia Critic like sometimes inserting clips from other movies to, you know, to go with a joke, and when Wilma knocking that lamp down, we cut to the old man, not a finger. So that's funny. So that's probably one of my favorite moments out of all A Christmas Story is not a finger. So. Yeah, so...
It's also one of the moments that hasn't been quoted into freaking oblivion.
Oh, okay. So...
No, I'm just saying we were talking earlier about how overexposed that movie is.
Right. So, anyway, so... And then, of course, Wilma, along with Pebbles and Dino, they pack up and... Well, because Fred has a feeling, and obviously this is where Wilma is heading to her mother's, and Fred just, you know, shouting and like saying, you know, once around the corner and such, and you'll come crawling back. And also another thing to mention from the Nostalgia Critics review, because with Fred shouting at Wilma, then cutting to General Zod, you know, saying, you will bow down before me. So,
okay, that's funny.
There you go.
I need to watch this review again.
The Nostalgia Critic is usually good at that stuff, so inserting clips from other movies to go along with something, just, yeah. Anyways, so...
Starting to use clips again and isn't just doing the stupid, like, skit thing. That was a dark era for him.
Yeah, say what you will, I don't mind the skits, you know. Sometimes
I don't mind the skits.
Look, sometimes...
When that's all the review is, that's what I have a problem with.
And my point being is, like, look, once in a while, people are going to evolve and have changes in the content that they do. Doug Walker being one of them, especially.
You and I should do a straight-up, like, retrospective podcast on Doug Walker at some point. He's a fascinating man.
I'd be down for that. So, I'd be down to...
Good. I'd be down for that.
I'd be down to join in for that. And hey, as you're watching this, viewers, probably has already happened by now. But anyways, then, you know, the next, because the Rubbles now, because that one moment where it's kind of sad for Barney, because the line that he says, we know what his childhood was like, where he sadly says, you know, I've become like my father now. So... yeah, because Barney's childhood, like in the very early days of Caveman and such, so, you know.
That line actually might be my biggest laugh in the whole movie. The way Moranis delivers it just cracks me up.
Okay. I've become like my father, so, anyways. Wait, repeat that?
Well, it's happened.
Yeah, I've become like my father. So, and then, because, yeah, like, the Rubbles, they start to bond, and even Barney, at one point, like, you know, getting his son to say, you know, who am I? Bam! Bam! Not there yet saying dada or mama. And then at one point, an angry, Brachiosaurus shows up. Apparently, Betty mistakenly took an egg from the Brachiosaurus's nest. So, yeah, that was funny. And then back at the Slade and Company, because Fred arriving back to work, and, well, he has an angry mob there, and, you know, even, like, Richard Mole, his character, Hoagie, because, you know, even Fred, you know, direct at Hoagie, you know, I'm your friend, you're no friend of ours, and you're a terrible bowler, but this is because, you know, they think that Fred, you know, fired them and such, and yeah, just the reasoning of saying that to Fred and such. And by this point, Fred, he goes into, like, the one room, just the files, and he finds out that, well, he accidentally fired his fellow co-worker / friends, and, well, because, you know, Miss Stone and Cliff, they find out about this, and because Fred did that, well, it's not looking good for Fred, and even, you know, Miss Stone gives Fred the chance to, you know, make a run for it. And, yeah, even Fred telling Cliff, you know, you won't get away with this, Cliff, and, oh, I already have. And now Fred, you know, wrongfully becoming a fugitive and stuff like that. By the way, a couple of newspapers that we see, they do actually use the cartoon look of Fred Flintstone. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That seems fitting. Makes sense.
Yeah, so. I like that. It's a nice homage. Also, I think it's funny that in both this movie and Viva Rock Vegas, the third act low of lows is Fred becoming a fugitive.
Yeah. So Fred becoming a fugitive, and because, you know, he's in disguise, and even at one point, because he sees this on TV, like, this, like, the Flintstones' own version of reenactment of, like, criminals and fugitives. You remember that, don't you?
Of course. That's another one of my favorite comedy bits.
Yeah. So with that, like, the reenactment of crimes and such, and, you know, you realize that Jay Leno made a cameo in there.
Of course.
And by the way, because speaking of Jay Leno, because when John Goodman was on Jay Leno, and, well, this is obviously around the time when the Flintstones was coming out, because talking about the Flintstones, and, well, because, you know, Jay Leno, he had filmed a cameo and such, and by the way, because he did at one point, I don't know if you knew this, because, and I know I showed you this, Tiki, the Fred Flintstone plush I have, and that's going to be in this thumbnail. Jay Leno pulled out the Fred Flintstone plush. So.
Oh, yeah, I think I saw a clip of that, yeah. And I think John Goodman is just like, oh, God, yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I really don't want to be typecast as this guy for the rest of my career.
Right. And even according to John Goodman, I wish I could remember the exact words he said, but to put it this, and maybe you know this too, because John Goodman stated on Jay Leno that Spielberg mailed him that, and something about this being his nightmares or something, you know. And then Jay Leno asked John if he could do a Yabba Dabba Doo, and the audience are applauding for that, and then John Goodman goes, Yabba Dabba Dabba, don't do drugs.
Yeah,
that kind of thing. And by the way, speaking more of talk shows, also a quick mentioning of this, because around the time when Conan O'Brien officially became talk show host, and John Goodman was one of his very first guest stars, even got the gold medal and such of being first guest.
Nice, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so when he was on Conan O'Brien's first episode of talk show and such, one of his old talk shows in the 90s, and obviously this was around 94 and before the Flintstones came out, and of course, yeah, talking about the Flintstones, and because Conan asked John if we are to see the Great Gazoo, and John confirmed that we're not seeing the Great Gazoo, so... But we would, of course, get the Great Gazoo, not in that, but in the prequel, so... That's another story, but anyway, so again, yeah, Fred, he's on the run, a fugitive, and we cut to, well, because again, Wilma and Pebbles, they're residing at Wilma's house, and then Betty showing up along with Bam Bam, and like you said, Tiki, early on, because how much Pebbles, she cares for Bam Bam, and they immediately go for a hug.
Sweet.
Exactly. Oh, I just feel like mentioning this. Did you ever try the Pebbles and Bam Bam cereal?
Well, you don't mean just Fruity Pebbles?
Well, yeah. I mean, the Flintstones cereal, basically, put at it.
Yeah, of course I've tried. I definitely prefer Cocoa Pebbles to Fruity Pebbles. Fruity Pebbles is like... It's a bit too intense of a flavor profile for my taste.
Okay. So I just felt like bringing that up, because that being another important thing...
My Pebbles!
Why does... even to mention Nostalgia Critic again, he makes a good point. Why doesn't Barney go to the store? So... Barney, you're not the Trix rabbit. So...
Well, I was going to say, you could probably make the same argument for the Trix Rabbit, honestly.
Even Nostalgia Critic brought that up, too. The kids are jerks. Like, there's no reason for them not to give the Trix Rabbit tricks. So, anyway, so Betty feeling bad and, quickly makes amends with Wilma. And then they happen to see this on TV as well, the same time Fred does. And, Wilma's mother, because we don't get that. It's nice that we don't get that much of Wilma's mother in this and how much she gives Fred a hard time. And even because Wilma going on, that she does love Fred, but just to Wilma's mother, just like shriveling every time her daughter.
We get just enough of her to paint a really vivid picture, but not have it be overbearing, that is honestly like a kind of like a tricky line to dance with a mother-in-law character.
Yeah, and also, even like when she brought up that, if Fred is missing in the next couple of years, she can remarry and such, but Wilma, she doesn't want to hear that, so mother, so, and so they see this on TV, and, that is not my husband, because when, she pointed out, like, how can you marry a man like that? And then Betty saying that about that actor portraying Fred, like, from another show, like, that was funny. And Wilma gets an idea, because when her mother says, like, can he prove he's innocent? And, then she sees that, well, a bird is there, and that's when she gets the idea that, yeah, there's a very good chance that, yeah, because the dictabird is the key and the answer to prove Fred's innocence. And then the quick sequence where Fred... is in this cave, and he's surrounded by his ex-co-workers and those who are against him, but little do they know, he's under that disguise. You know something? I don't know why I never thought of this until now. His wardrobe is a huge giveaway.
Well, yeah, a little bit. It's not that great of a disguise.
Mine is...
He's literally wearing the same, like, patterned shirt, just with a beard.
And tie, blue tie, so minus the beard and the hat. So and then he interacts with a cameo by the late legendary Jonathan Winters as the grizzled man. Yeah, grizzled man. Anything on Jonathan Winters' appearance in this?
No, not really.
I mean, it's Jonathan Winters, his appearance in this is okay, so... not to mention, because years later, he would go on to do something else, Hanna-Barbera, which, of course, being the two Smurfs movies where he was the voice of Papa Smurf.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Anyways, so in an interaction between the grizzled man and Fred in disguise, and did you work at the quarry as well? And then Fred in disguise, like saying that about because they're talking about Fred. Little do they know it's him in that disguise, and Fred bringing up if him bringing up his what did he say again? Like his do you know what I'm talking about?
I just know that
him answering. He can talk about his side on being a fugitive and such. His side of the story. That's right, his side of the story. But the grizzled man just finds it hilarious, and then because the beard kind of comes off of Fred, well. Talk about a big coincidence. The old garbage disposal is there.
Yeah, it is a big coincidence, but you know what? The garbage disposal is such a fun character that I totally don't mind. And
I can't remember if I said this early on, but Brian Levent, he is the voice of the garbage disposal. So, and going, Flintstone! Yeah, and because the grizzled man pulling off the disguise, and it's Flintstone, get him! And that was funny and quick of Fred, saying to the garbage disposal, squealer. So, and then making a run for it, and then because Cliff, he's planning to take travel to to the beach, as he said at the beginning of the film, a beach in Rockapult, and Miss Stone finds out that there's only one plane ticket, so. I think by that point, because Cliff was going to ditch Miss Stone. Mm. Right, so now she gets the idea. It doesn't take her too long to realize. And by that point, because her sticking up for Fred and, now being redeemed and such. And for Wilma and Betty, because they snuck into the building and, speaking with the Dictabird. And as you said, Tiki, no, Mumsy, I don't want to go to school. The other boys make fun of me.
Lives in my head rent-free. It honestly might be the most memorable line from the whole movie for me.
It's not... I've seen a couple of other, films and such where they've done that kind of joke before, like waking up and saying, no, Mom, I don't want to go to school today. I've seen that before, so...
I know, it's just the delivery. It's just Corman's delivery that's super memorable for me.
Yeah. It's like... I could take, for example, Space Jam. Daffy Duck doing that. Do you remember that?
Oh.
Yeah.
But,
Mommy, I don't want to go to school today. I want to stay home and bake cookies with you. So.
The thing that really kills me is the whole, the other boys make fun of me.
And Wilma waking him up and, because Wilma saying to the Dictabird that he is the answer to, proving her husband's innocence and such. And, the Dictabird, his response is, my, and, now let me share something with you. He's basically doing the raspberry, but he doesn't stick out his tongue. So, yeah. And then Betty, walking up and, she handles this pretty well by freaking strangling him, now getting him to listen and to go along with this. And, talk about, Betty just sticking up, definitely for, her husband, Barney, how much, the love she has for Barney. And the same goes for Wilma, sticking up for her husband, Fred. So, because Cliff happens to notice they're running away with the Dictabird, and it doesn't take him too long to realize what's happening, and what he does next, a little bit later on, because, Fred being chased by a mob, and they're basically about to hang him. Geez, that's kind of dark.
It is dark, it really is, yeah.
Yeah, and then, at one point, Barney's showing up in an ice cream truck, nice to see that he did find another job, being an ice cream man. And I think you would remember this, Tiki, because the ice cream truck plays the Jetsons tune. A nice little nod.
It's a snow cone truck, specifically. And
yeah,
I got to tell you, man, those snow cones have always stuck out to me. You know, the same way that Dragon and I sometimes hyperfixate on food animation. Those snow cones have always stood out to me as just looking absolutely delicious.
In the Flintstones movie, you say? Or
yes.
Okay. Like in the cartoon or in the movie? Like what do you?
In the movie.
Oh,
like the ones that the guys are like grabbing out of the truck.
That's right. And that was a nice little nod and Easter egg there with the Jetsons tune. So
yeah.
And Barney, because he sees that Fred's about to be hung, and then Grizzled Man asks Barney, "Do you know this guy?" Okay, I have something to say on that. Shouldn't Fred's ex-co-workers and his ex-friends who are now against him and they want him dead, like, they should know, but they should clearly know that Fred and Barney are friends. Do you know where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Like, seriously, did they forget for a moment? Just like, I don't know.
No, that's a good point. Plot hole.
I don't really want to complain that much, but I just felt like pointing that out because for me, and I think maybe now for you, Tiki, and for anybody else, it's so obvious. So,
right. Yeah, I feel that.
So Barney basically explains that he is responsible for what happened with Fred, and leading up to that, and the Grizzled Man, thanking him and saying that we would have made a huge mistake. Hang them both! And what? And now, both Barney and Fred are being hung. And a moment between Barney and Fred, and, Fred feeling bad, and Barney as well. And it doesn't take them too long to, become best buds again and such, and basically brothers. And, Fred saying to Barney that, if there was a moment that something like this would happen, he would want to be right beside his best buddy, how he says it, and Hoagie just saying, you can bond in the afterlife, and thus they're proceeding on planning to hang them. And sure enough, Betty and Wilma with the Dictabird arrive in time. They knock down the tree, and well, because Wilma telling them that Fred is innocent, have them listen to the Dictabird, and the Dictabird going, "First things first, I demand an apology." Barney saying, "I'm sorry, not you," says the Dictabird, "him." "Me? Apologize to a bird? Fred Flintstone? Not Fred Flintstone." Well, the Dictabird saying, "I may eat bugs, but I have feelings, and you hurt them." And Fred admitting that, yeah, he was probably harsh, even when he was molting. And he does apologize, "I don't think they heard you in the back." And, "I'm sorry." "I'm sorry. And now everything's good for Fred and Barney, and, well, obviously the Dictabird proceeds on telling them on the whole story and such, and now they know it's Cliff. And when they return home, Barney, Fred, Wilma, and Betty, because, well, the door was opened, and, well, they see that disaster had happened. Wilma's mother, as well as Dino, they're both tied up, and, well, where's Bam Bam and Pebbles? Well, we find out.
It's like the gag where Fred just steps right over the mother to help Dino. He helps Dino, and then he just doesn't even bother untying the mother even after that.
Yeah, and about that, because it's nice for once that he's being sweet and kind to Dino,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but him like, because, he's not going to untie his mother-in-law who gives him a hard time, so. And, well, a note was left, and, basically, obviously, they realize it's Cliff. Bring the Dictabird, no police, and at that moment, just Fred just crushing it. Oh, Cliff has for sure made Fred pissed off, so. And at the quarry, because that sequence where they come face to face with Cliff, and, well, because Cliff pointing out where their children are tied, I do wonder, because I assume probably both Cliff and Miss Stone did this. They went in and captured them. They tied up Wilma's mother and Dino. I wonder, like, if it was difficult for them, if they had any difficulty at first with Bam Bam. Do you know where I'm going with this?
Yeah, I didn't think about that, but that is kind of I feel like the movie doesn't want you to think about that.
You know what? You know something else? Like, even the Nostalgia Critic made a good point on this. We've seen Bam Bam crush through walls, and he's got powerful strength. Really? Because he was not able to untie himself? Just...
Yeah, I was going to say, if anything, you would think he'd be able to, like, get free of the trap. Yeah.
And as...
Oh, well, plot hole, as Rob Walker would say.
Yeah, and Nostalgia Critic even also brings up, like what? Tying up, like, a Bam Bam being tied up is his kryptonite? So...
Right.
Maybe. I mean, maybe Cliff had, just luckily enough, had some powerful, like rope and such for Bam Bam. So, and, well, Cliff telling them to give him the Dictabird, and, in exchange, they can rescue their kids and such. And, well, because Fred does have a plan, Fred and Barney, that, not only are they going to rescue their kids, but they'll also rescue the Dictabird. Besides, there's only one of Cliff. There's two of them and only one of Cliff. So, and a funny line from the Dictabird. You know what it is. I should have signed with Disney. They never would have allowed this sort of thing to happen. What anything to say on that line?
No, it's pretty typical of the '90s sort of meta humor for companies to poke fun at each other like that.
Especially Universal at Disney. Not to mention Universal and Disney being two big time, having on the side of Universal and Disney big time, theme parks. In theme park.
Pirates of the Caribbean opened. The pirates didn't eat the tourists.
There you go. There's another example from something else Universal.
Disneyland opened in 1956, right?
55. So.
Well, yeah, I know, but John Hammond says 50.
I know he does. I think that's one fun fact. I seem to recall that's one thing that had bugged my mother. As much as she loves Jurassic Park, that's one thing that had bugged her, that they got it wrong.
Finish on that movie, seriously.
What's that now?
I said it's like the one blemish on that movie.
It's not. Yeah. How dare they get it wrong? It wasn't 1956. It was 1955. So.
You're off by 1 year.
It never fails. Like, maybe that wasn't intentional. I guess. Like, it never fails. There's always going to be goofs in movies. So.
Wouldn't it be fun if Spielberg was like, no, I intentionally made John Hammond mess that up, because it goes to show that John Hammond isn't actually all that in tune with theme parks, and it's like a foreshadow that the Jurassic Park was going to go wrong.
And not to mention, the author of Jurassic Park basically had how he describes John Hammond, the late author of the Jurassic Park books. He basically described John Hammond as a dark Walt Disney. Right. Yeah, if you knew about that, so.
I knew about that, and I would say, if anything, I think the movie kind of portrays John Hammond as a Walt Disney with even less edges to him.
Yeah, but just to quickly mention this, and before we continue on with the Flintstones, it's like John Hammond, he didn't do anything intentionally. He just wanted to bring something to life that was not an illusion, and for his dream to fall apart.
That monologue is seriously one of my favorite monologues in film history.
Now, what was that? What monologue?
The Flea Circus monologue.
Oh, in Jurassic Park?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. I mean, in that sequence where, he's talking with Laura's character, of his vision and dream of doing that,
Right.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, see, because, it shows that he's not a bad man at all, because he had a vision, he had a dream, and for it to just fall apart. So, sadly. But anyway, so back to the Flintstones, because, the Dictabird coming to Cliff, but, well, of course, Cliff, he's not letting them off the hook, and he's not going to let them get to their kids that easy by setting off the device, and, well, Barney and Fred trying to shut it off, but they break the switch, part of the switch, the lever. Nice going, says both of them. And, well, now Barney, he has to go get the kids, while Fred tries to basically shut it off, but there's too much pressure, according to Fred, even when part of that lever was destroyed. And Barney getting an idea of how to reach to the kids, like, that slingshot. Yeah, the slingshot. Using the slingshot, And to borrow one more thing from the Nostalgia Critics review, because, when Barney goes flying, science of Wile E. Coyote, don't fail me now! So, that about makes sense. And it's funny, so... so Barney reaching to Pebbles and Bam Bam, and for the first time ever, finally, Bam Bam saying, "Hiya, Dada." So, you did it. You call me Dada, and sure enough, because he got distracted by that, he's knocked out, and, Pebbles and Bam Bam, how they react, and Fred, "Oh, Barney, you lunkhead." So, now it's up to Fred, it's up to him to do something. What am I gonna do? I gotta think of something, and he has the first vision he has, like those Brachiosauruses, one of them munching on his mother-in-law. So that was funny, but that's not what he was thinking, and not to be that cruel to her. And then he gets an idea, because this happened early on in the film. He was playing around with the model, and he accidentally, basically shot a tiny boulder, wrecking part of the model, and that's where he gets the idea. That's what he can do in reality. And, well, he was about to do so, but then the Dictabird at one point, because Cliff was running off with the Dictabird, and, the Dictabird complimenting on him, but, shut up, and the Dictabird biting on him, then running away, then, hiding behind Fred, and I forget, Cliff had some device and such, and kiss your bird goodbye, oh, mama. And sure enough, Miss Stone popping up, and she does her part, good, where... she knocks out Cliff. Will there be anything else, Mr. Flintstone? No, Miss Stone, take the rest of the day off. And then Fred proceeding on, destroying it, and perfect timing, because, I think, thanks to Pebbles screaming, that gets, Barney wakes up, and then he gets the kids out of there. Fred launches a giant rock at the device. It destroys it. Dirt, concrete, and water basically combined. Fred chanting, "Yabba dabba doo!" And then, Cliff's not done, because some business left to take care of between Fred and Cliff. Cliff running away, and another moment with him with a stoned ball at the bowl, because of what he did at the bowling place, and basically launching it at Cliff. It hits him. Strike! We see the police showing up, Cliff still trying to make a run from it, but, he just stands there as the dirt and water combined, creating concrete, and basically piles on him, and that's how he's defeated. He's just now a concrete statue, basically.
And then one of my favorite gags in the whole movie is Mr. Slade's, marvel at the invention of concrete. I think that's so funny.
Yeah, and right before I mention that, because, the Dictabird giving all the police all the information on what happened, Miss Stone, she still is going to jail, but Fred, he's gonna help her get off the hook and such, and then, because... Well, it feels like Fred and Barney, they're out of a job, both of them, but then Mr. Stone showing up, and because I'm pretty sure this was in the cartoon as well as in this, where at times Mr. Stone would get Fred's name wrong.
Yeah, that was in the cartoon, yeah.
Okay, just making sure. And
it
then
means well, but yeah.
Yeah, so then Mr. Stone just, shouting, "Flintstone!" Oh, now he gets my name right. And, wondering what happened to, Cliff and such. And, he's sorry for it. And then Mr. Stone's like, "Sorry, I love this stuff. I'm going to name it after my daughter, Concretia." So...
that, cracks me up. It's so stupid, but I don't know.
Did I get the name right, Concretia?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Basically, this marks the birth and beginning of concrete, and according to Mr. Stone, the Stone Age is now over. And, basically, he tells Fred that, he's putting him as an executive, and this could make him rich and such because of what Fred has created. But as much as Fred loves the offer, he has to turn it down, because what happened with him the first time, because he realized how much that made him being a jerk, and he realized that what he has is what he is what he only is what all he needs is his family and such. However, he does ask Mr. Stone to give, all the employees who will now be rehired, like a 2-week paid vacation. And also, this was mentioned by Fred and Barney early on in the film, those catch-up packs, in the lunchroom. Yeah.
I really, really appreciate the fact that this film wraps up with what I would like to call a realistically happy ending.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like a happily ever after, but it's like, oh, that's nice. They got that. Good for them.
Yep, and Mr. Stone, like, as they walk off Fred, the Flintstones and the Rebels, and Mr. Stone, like, the last line he gets, like, there goes the best executive I know, and such, yeah. And then Fred saying that, they should get some breakfast and so on, and, my treat. And then turning to Barney, can you lend me a few bucks? I'm a little short. And, as it was brought up early on in the film, and at the end, because when he brought that up to Barney, not this time! And just, I guess, like, happily chasing him. So, yeah. And then, because once again, we get the film's rendition of, like, the closing of the theme song of the Flintstones, and, well, of course, they, as always, them going to a restaurant afterwards, and, well, they go to Rock Donald's, and then, of course, them arrive, because it tips over their vehicle, heading back home, Fred putting out the cat for the night, but, of course, the saber-toothed cat pushing him outside, so Fred is out for the night, and, of course, him shouting, Wilma! And then the credits, like, it starts with, we like to thank, like, the citizens of Bedrock, and also no dinosaurs, etc., were harmed during the making of this movie. So, that was a heck of a way to end it off, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, it only makes sense to have, like, that's such an iconic ending for the show, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And also, I thought this was just for, I didn't realize this, because unless if you went at you fast forward straight through the credits, like, I think it's for it's in the movie itself, like, visit us at Universal Studios. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
It's at the very end of the movie. I guess like the Flintstones version of a sponsorship for Universal Studios. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure that Universal, they probably had walk-around characters. They might have also had a playground. Or something like that. I don't know exactly what it was. I know there was some minor theme park representation for this movie. Obviously not like an attraction or anything, but yeah.
Right. Even having some of the props out at the Universal Studios at the Universal Studios backlot. I think they still have them. They have a couple of the on-screen used vehicles that were used in the Flintstones movie.
Yes, they do, because in the backlot there's that one section you go through that has all the Hollywood cars, and I will say that when I went to Gatlinburg, they have a famous, like, movie car museum, and I would say besides the Andy Griffith Show police car that with the steering wheel that's signed by Don Knotts, just because Don Knotts is like a freaking comedy icon to me.
Oh yeah.
Besides that, the most exciting thing for me in that whole museum was the movie version of the Flintstones car. It was so cool to see that in person.
Cool. And it was the actual car that was used in the film?
Yeah. It's the actual screen-used car, yeah.
Cool. See, because at the Universal Studios backlot, I've seen videos and such, where they have the one car that Fred got, when he became a millionaire, and maybe they had the one car of the Rubbles, I don't know. But I distinctly remember the car that Fred got, in exchange with his old car, so that. But like I said, like, the way that the movie opens, the way the movie ends was pretty funny. Also, because, again, movie just it was a financial success, but still, how it was received by critics. Also, because another mentioning about John Goodman, because around the same year when he was on when he was when the Flintstones was coming out, because he was on SNL, and I think he was guest host, and there was one skit that he did where he was once again in the Fred Flintstone costume. And to best describe the skit is basically, going over, how your last names would be said, in the world of the Flintstones.
Right.
Like, the best example I can think of, Chris Farley's name would be Chris Rock.
Oh my god, oh, that's fucking weird.
Well, there you go. There you go. So that's I think that's the best example, and I think you get it by now. So, and I think that would be the last time we would see John Goodman in the Fred Flintstone costume. And here's the thing. I don't know if you knew about this, Tiki. Maybe you did or not. But there were plans. Universal and Spielberg, they were considering to make 2 more Flintstones movies and to make it a movie trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, their plans to make 2 more Flintstones movies with the cast returning, of course, most notably Goodman, Moranis, Rosie O'Donnell and Perkins. Yeah, like they were planning to with these planned 2 next 2 Flintstones movies. Like they were planning to shoot them back to back, but John Goodman, I think, doing 1 was enough for him. Like, from what I heard, he and the cast, they had a great time doing it, but from what I can tell and how I'm putting at it, I think 1 was enough for John Goodman, because he came to Steven Spielberg and begged him not to have him play Fred 2 more times. So, and like you said, Tiki, because John Goodman not wanting to be typecast, right?
Yeah, that was his main concern, yeah.
Yeah, but overall, because like I said, he seemed to have a good time, him and the rest of the cast and crew, and again, like we've said, how fantastic John Goodman was playing Fred Flintstone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so again, 1 was enough for John Goodman, and that was it. And so Universal and Spielberg, they canceled and scrapped plans for 2 more Flintstones movies, and fast forward, well, as we all know, we would get, this time a prequel, which being the disaster it is, Viva Rock Vegas.
It's a disaster, but I have so much childhood nostalgia for it.
yeah, it's understandable, to anybody like Tiki that comes to like Viva Rock Vegas. But with that, the Flintstones live-action film from 1994, well, it is what it is. It may not be the best Hanna-Barbera film material, and, it's true, it has its lovers and haters, but for me and Tiki, we're one of those that really appreciate it and come to enjoy it and such. For me, I don't think it's that bad. With where the story goes, with the casting, the practical and visual effects, the music, and almost can't forget to mention, because the music and score being done by the one and only David Newman, just everything about the live-action Flintstones movie, not that bad. And again, it has its lovers and haters, very, very understandable. So what do you have to say, Tiki, your final words and the results and stuff to say on the film?
Yeah, I mean, I just think this movie really comes together as far as, like, the plot is a little bit of a mess, but it does feel very, very true to the source material, especially in the fact that, it's got some genuine, like, adult sitcom vibes to it.
Uh-huh.
The casting, just top to bottom, is absolutely impeccable.
Oh, yeah.
And like I said, man, some people might think I'm crazy for saying this is genuinely some of the most impressive production design in movie history. But I honestly stand by it. I just adore the fact that every single little last detail of this world is just handcrafted. It's so practical. It's honestly so refreshing compared to, like, like the green screen CGI sludge that we're getting in most modern blockbusters. It's so refreshing to go back to something like this where, the genuine, like, handcrafted quality of it is just so on screen. So,
yep.
I'm a huge defender of this movie. I really am. I think it holds up even better now.
Yep, absolutely. Also, quick mentioning on some of the other cast members. There was Janice Kent as the stewardess, Mrs. Feldspar as played by Gene Vanderpyle, and I completely forgot he was in this at times. Jack O'Halloran, who was Yeti, obviously one of the caveman. Now I know Jack Halloran best as one of General Zod's henchmen in Superman's 1 and 2. So yeah. And of course you have the the B-52 members, Kate Peterson, Fred Schneider, Keith Strickland, all of the members of B-52 appearing in the Flintstones as the BC-52. So, but yeah, and Jay Leno, his character was called Bedrock's Most Wanted Host. Yeah, so anyways, I didn't realize this. The lookalikes, who played the Cliff and Fred lookalikes, well, the Fred lookalike was Alan Blumenfeld. And do you know who was the Cliff lookalike, Tiki?
No.
Sam Raimi.
Oh my God. Oh, that makes sense. That totally makes sense. That's great.
Uh-huh.
I need to go back and watch that scene.
Yeah.
With that context.
A young Sam Raimi, that is. I mean, Sam Raimi has done a bit of acting, aside from, most notably well known for his directing side. So.
Yeah, but he's kind of like Tarantino, though, where occasionally he'll pop up in his own stuff.
I don't seem to recall, seeing him in the Spider-Man films, for example.
No, not the Spider-Man films, but he's definitely popped up from time to time.
Not even Oz the Great and Powerful.
Well, that movie is
still got Bruce. You still got Bruce. Still got Bruce Campbell in it. But anyways, so
that's true.
Okay, with the Flintstones movie, how we rate it? We'll start with you, Tiki. How do you rate it?
Honestly, at this point, man, I would probably give it a solid 8 out of 10. I really would. I think it's that good.
Okay, so you're doing the 10 out of 10 star thing. So
yeah, if we're doing a letter grade, I would probably give it like a B plus.
Okay, so Flintstones movie gets a B plus. Okay, but okay, so for me, you know what? What the heck? Because I'm on the same level as you, Tiki. I give the Flintstones live-action film, the Fingers, 8 out of 10 stars. Yes,
right.
For both me and Tiki, we give it 8 out of 10 stars. Again, we really appreciate the Flintstones film. We're one of those, and I'm sure some of you too, that come to really like and enjoy the Flintstones movie. Like I said, it's not the best, it's understandable, but at the same time, it does have its lovers and haters, and I think, again, as of now, it's gotten more love and appreciation. Do you think so?
Yeah, I definitely think so, especially from a production design standpoint, but yeah, I think just in general, I think it's definitely more regarded now, critically, than it was when it came out.
Yeah. Also, one more quick mentioning, Lorraine Newman was Susan Rock, the reporter and such. But anyways, so again, that's how we rate the Flintstones movie, and I think I'll join in with you, Tiki, on this. I also give it a B plus. So yeah.
Right.
But yeah. So what about you guys? What do you think of the live-action Flintstones movie? Is there any of you that come to like it and appreciate it? But I guess some of you just, and yeah, do you think the casting was spot on, top notch, from John Goodman, Rick Moranis, the list goes on, and like you said, Tiki, the entire cast in this movie did not disappoint.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and do you think that the set design and such were good? At least that, and how the mammals and dinosaurs were practical, but sometimes, very well done CG and so on. The music, yeah, just everything about the live-action Flintstones movie. What did you think of it? And with what me and Tiki had to say with our review and such, and yeah, what did you think of our review? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And with that being said, thank you very much for watching. We hope you guys enjoyed our review of the live-action Flintstones movie from 1994. More review videos are on the way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and we'll see you guys in the next video /review. And Tiki, it's been a great pleasure having you for this. Thank you for being a part of this.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem.
And guys, you will see Tiki guest star from time to time down the road. Don't worry, because we know what we're going to be reviewing next, and once we make more plans on what else we'll do review collabs on, just, stay tuned. Say goodbye, Tiki.
Goodbye, Tiki.
Okay, yeah. Don't repeat what I say. So, okay, for me, again, thank you very much for watching. Happy anniversary to the Flintstones live-action film. Take care, and peace out. Yabba dabba doo! Your turn. Ending quote.
I don't. I mean, mine would be the Dick to Bird thing. I don't have one. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Not a problem.
All right. Sorry, folks.